Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the Torchwood episode Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, written by Chris Chibnall and directed by Ashley Way. This is the first story of Season 2. Yes, Series 1 was popular enough to get Series 2. It wasn't like a huge success, but it's a success enough that we had another series following in the vein of the first, where we have each episode being an individual story, just like Series 1. And this story also introduces a few plot elements for Series 2, as well as being a continuation, shall we say, of Jack's departure from the last episode of Torchwood, End of Days, which we've seen where Jack has been during the episodes Utopia, The Sound of Drums, and Last of the Time Lords. So, there's a lot of built up to that. This story also introduces the recurring character of Captain John Hart, played by James Martez, who's mostly known for playing Spike in the American show Buffy the Vampire Slayer and its spin-off Angel. So he was a big actor at the time. It was really cool to see an actor I was familiar with from shows that I grew up with as a child make an appearance in this. This is actually the first time I've ever seen the character doing this marathon, so I was very interested to see what who this character is, what he's like, and he became so popular, he actually has a Big Finish spin-off. A Big Finish spin-off to an audio spin-off of Torchwood, which is a spin-off of the televised series Torchwood, which is a spin-off of the televised series Doctor Who. Wrap your head around that. This story, I'm not quite sure if it's a popular one or not. I mean, I know a lot of people like the character John Hart, but this element does keep with similar elements that I know people didn't like from Series 1. Mainly its overuse, not overuse, but it's needlessly adding adult elements, giving it a very immature feeling, but also trying to take the series seriously. So that's kind of interesting. So, onto the story itself. The story actually starts off with straight into an action scene, as you get the rest of the Torchwood team, with the exception of Jack, chasing after a alien creature, this what they call a blowfish, which also has made numerous appearances in both Torchwood and Doctor Who after this episode. So that's kind of interesting. And right off the bat, we get this feeling that the Torchwood team have been without Jack for a little while now, and they have coped without him. In fact, they're very good at the jobs. Gwen and Owen seems to have not forgiven each other, but can work well enough. And all the Torchwood team are like, they can work well with each other. And that becomes then an issue when Jack comes back into the story. Now, interestingly enough, at the end of Last of the Time Lords, we see Jack trying to reunite with the rest of the Torchwood team. That was in the day. This scene in which Jack gets reunited with the Torchwood team appears to be at night, presumably the same day that Jack returned. There seems to be no explanation of which day Jack returned from, how many days he went missing. It's very strange how nobody brings up the fact that Jack, along with two individuals, were Britain's most wanted. Like, Jack was Britain's most wanted in The Sound of Drums. Sure, the Doctor rewrote history so the year that never was never happened. But he was still the world's most wanted man. In terms of Torchwood canonical, it does kind of make sense, because for those of you who watch Torchwood and don't watch Doctor Who, if there is even people who do that, then you're not going to be well versed with those storylines. So you do kind of have to go, right, we're going to have to kind of forget about Jack being on the run from the government. And and trying to take down the Master. But we do get mentions a lot of Jack just disappearing at the end of Series 1 and how the Torchwood team have just sort of coped without him and have actually get along fine. In fact, Jack coming back actually puts a brack into the situation, as everybody kind of feels like they can get on without him. And because now all the characters are a lot more mature now in terms of their personalities compared to Series 1, it just leaves that there's one issue in terms of the dynamic that is really left hanging from Series 1. And that is Jack's mysterious backstory, as a part of the reason why the Torchwood team are now so well working with each other and how Jack coming in is such an issue is that the Torchwood team know each other. Owen knows Gwen knows like everything about Owen as far as team concerns, and Toshika and Janto at this point. But nobody knows who Jack is. In fact, the last time we learned something new about Jack was in the episode Captain Jack Harkness, where we learn that his name isn't even Jack. Like, so there's just this mysterious cloud, and things become even more heightened when Captain John Hart comes in, as he is teleported through some sort of time energy. I don't know if he used the vortex manipulator, and he is someone from Jack's past, and he basically announces himself that he is in this time period. In fact, the first thing he does is that he kills someone, and the first thing Jack does is that he gets into the car, leaves his Torchwood team there, and tells them not to follow him, leaving this ranch in the team, this gap, to widen even further. And when the narrative tackles that, the story does have like a lot of great elements to it and a lot of great moments to it. We quickly learn that Captain John Hart was someone from, of course, Captain Jack's history, but he was, just like Captain Jack, a former time agent that went sort of rogue. And we learn here that the time agency has been basically denounced. It's been the program has been cancelled, leaving only a handful of time agents. One of them being John Hart, who is he's basically like Captain Jack. He like Jack, he's very open about his sexuality, and there's lots of jokes on like how much like fancies characters and stuff. And he also tries to get inside the Torchwood team, tries to help him, but Jack knows who this character is and is like, the rest of the Torchwood team don't trust him. I know this character, I don't trust him. Which then brings up the question, yeah, Jack, we can't trust him because we don't know much about him, but we don't know you either. Why should we trust you? Why should we accept you back as the leader? Gwen at this point has taken up the role of leader of Torchwood since Jack's disappearance. And as for Captain John Hart, I feel like there's a great character there. We've got a great actor playing him. His performance balances off extremely well with John Barrowman, Evan Myers, and all the other cast members. Ashley Way also does a fantastic way of directing him, showing the parallels between him and Jack, but also showing, especially later on, that he is this villain. But I feel like the character doesn't go far enough. Clearly, the thing is supposed to like gravitate towards is that he is basically an evil Jack, but I feel like this story here does only does like a limited stuff with that premise, and feels like for the most part it's just like another Jack, only until really at the end. John Hart's plan is that he basically says that he had this girlfriend, and she basically told him about these canisters that are highly radioactive, and they have been separated all over Cardiff, and he needs them and so he's basically asking the Torchwood team's help for their help with the canisters. And so they track him down 2 by 2, which is probably one of the more interesting scenes in this story, as basically we get to learn a little bit of each of our characters. Before they set off, Jack learns that Reese has proposed to Gwen. They are about to get married, something which will be pulling forth into another episode of Series 2. Very interesting stuff there. But Gwen, interestingly, Gwen is the one that comes up with the plan. She's like, okay, Owen and Toshika, you take one canister, Jack and Janto, you take another, and I and John, we will take another canister. And Jack's like, hold on, who's supposed to be in charge? And then it's like there's this whole issue then, a drama then between Jack and Gwen, like who is the leader now, after Jack's departure, and the fact that the Torchwood team can't really trust him. So that leaves a big emotional impact, as Jack has a one-to-one with Gwen, and it's like, okay, I can see what you're doing, it's very smart, it's very thing, but whatever you do, don't trust him. And whatever you do, don't let him kiss you. And always have him in front of you. Never let him get behind you. Gwen's like, don't be ridiculous. Of course I won't. How bad do you think I am? So then the Torchwood team gets separated into 3 different ways. Toshika and Owen, their plot line here, at least what they talk about is they're trying to find one of the canisters in a warehouse. We basically start teasing their characterizations throughout the rest of Series 2. As Toshika, of course, as we've seen in previous episodes, has had some sort of crush on Owen. But here she kind of gets shy and she tries to talk to him about relationships. As Owen starts talking about his life of sleeping around and just just having a different person every night. He's kind of getting tired of that. He's getting pretty bored of that. And look where that got him: misery and just depressed. So he's actually thinking about starting a life with a woman who can tame him, look after him. Obviously, this puts ideas into Toshika's head. And then I really like both characters. But I never understood why Toshika would like Owen like that. Owen has been nothing but miserable towards her. And some of the stuff he has said throughout the rest of Series 1 can be described as horrible. Owen is a character which I feel like only certain writers get him. Sometimes some writers give him some dialogue that makes him really unlikable. But this storyline here, this little segment here, because I haven't actually seen Series 1 before. I've seen a handful of episodes, but for the most part, these are the first time I'll be watching these stories for the first time when I'm doing this marathon. But this looks promising. This looks like Owen starting to mature, and I hopefully by the time Series 2 ends, I will buy into their relationship. But for the moment, we are at good terms, even though here it's just really a seed set up, and those scenes in terms of the narrative of this story of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang really does feel like, oh, look, let's tease this relationship. Where will that be? Well, we'll have to wait until later episodes. Another one is also Jack and Janto. Now, Janto and Jack were teased to have some sort of relationship in Series 1. In here, we also have a very prominent relationship between them, and it's the first time I'm really they've had a relationship. Here it's described that the one of the canisters is in an office place as Jack tries to flirt with Janto, and Janto is just there's a time and a place, boss. Let's just figure out where this thing is. We need to keep our head in the game. And Jack is just like, are you okay? you don't seem to be acting normal. You're not seem to be acting usual. And Janto basically confronts us like, you just abandoned us, and we were just here to basically defend for ourselves. And I was worried about you. I don't know what you would do. You could have just gone away and just slept around like we are known to do. But Jack actually offers Janto a date for them to actually go, have a fancy restaurant and actually start growing into becoming a couple. And I really do like this scene. John Barrowman and what's the guy's name? Gareth. Oh my god, my brain is frozen. Sorry, I know. Gareth David Lloyd. He does a fantastic job here. They both the men do, and you can really buy into this relationship and how Jack starts to appreciate Janto in that respect. I also like Jack is he breaks down the relationship of a workplace. Janto, of course, is usually refers to everybody as Sir. He's been referring to Jack as Sir throughout the entire series 1. But Jack is please no, just call me Jack, it's fine. Or Harkness, don't call me Sir. And then Jack's trying to flirt with him, but Janto's not really having none of it for the start. But then he slowly is wait, maybe Jack is maybe this, maybe he's thinking about slowing down his flirtiness, and Janto might be the one for him. And so that scene ends with Janto being yes, okay, I'll take that date. One day when we have time off, we'll go on a nice little date. So that's a nice scene, even though again it plays up as if, okay, we're going to do something with this later. Just, bear with us. We'll put it in this story and we'll tease for later stories for this relationship to be pushed further. But the scene itself does work here. It just doesn't really hit with the narrative. Now, Gwen and John Hart are trying to look through through these, what they're called, things. And Gwen has a second motive behind taking John Hart. Not only does she is the more relatable one, so she tries to get him to talk about himself and what his real agenda is. He also uses him to try and learn more about Jack and their history together. And it's here where mentions of Jack being a con man are first mentioned since Jack's first appearance in Doctor Who, in The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances. Still no mention about the year of his memories being wiped. But, and for those of you who are curious, that plot line doesn't actually get resolved, but in a Doctor Who comic book, which actually chronologically is the first appearance of John Hart. Yeah, John Hart appears in a 9th Doctor comic. That's very strange and very odd. The Doctor has met John Hart at this point, or at least I think so. I've never actually read Secret Agent Man personally. But it turns out John Hart was lying through his teeth as he kisses Gwen forcefully, and it turns out he has this lip balm which actually paralyzes Gwen and is going into some sort of cardiac arrest as he takes these devices which turn out to be part of this puzzle, and he takes that off Gwen and she is left to die basically, and then attacks Janto and Toshika, injuring Owen, shooting him in the arm as he takes the canister from them, and then meets Janto and leaves him to live, but basically is right, you're going to leave me and Jack alone. He basically taunts him because John Hart has been mentioned as being Jack's former boyfriend. They were dated for about 2 weeks. and that Janto is like, there's two people you've got to save. What are you going to do? You're going to chase after me, you're going to chase after those. You're never going to be as good. You're never going to be good for Jack. It'll just be me and him throughout the universe, and you're just going to be left on Earth. So you go save them, I'll go talk to Jack. And Janto is just like, I'm going to bloody kill you. When I get the chance, I'm going to kill you. And so he goes down looking for Gwen and Janto, Gwen and Tashika and Owen, whilst Jack and John have a meeting on top of a rooftop, and they basically break it down, and the story ends with Jack, that scene ends with Jack throwing the canister and John Hart pushing Jack off the rooftop, and he falls onto these chairs and presumably killing him, and you see Jack's body and he's completely like bent, and it's just like, that looks like a horrible death, honest to God. And one thing like I really criticise is John Hart's plan in this story. All he had to do was just let the Torchwood team pick up everything for him, get to the Torchwood hub. Like, they didn't need to know. If he just didn't do anything, like, his plans would have been a lot not away with it, but he would have made it much more easier for himself than after finding the first one, does he attack Gwen and then set up this entire plot. It seems very bizarre, it seems really out of character for him, and it's a really dumb plan. But anyway, he after basically setting up everybody, he gets all of the pieces, goes back to the Torchwood hub, where it's revealed that the blowfish from the start of the story, which was killed by Jack, had another piece of the puzzle. And he basically reveals after the Torchwood team catch up to him that this piece of the puzzle will find the road to a diamond, which will be very high marketed, and you can live off like fame and fortune and all the money from them. So basically he's basically greedy out for money. Here it's then, does Jack then just appear to him, revealing to him that Jack is immortal. I love his reaction to seeing Jack live. He's just like, he's clearly stunned. He's just like, how did you do that? That's honestly surprising. No, seriously, how did you do that? And you can kind of feel him getting nervous, like this nervous energy about him. James Martez is a fantastic actor here. Really great work. Now, when he puts the devices together, it turns out that the girl that he taked off him was actually tricking him, and the device was actually made in case somebody tried to kill her. It basically was a massive trap, and there was a DNA bomb that then traps itself onto John Hart's body, and will kill him in a certain amount of time, and it's located into his DNA. Any sort of way to move it will set it off. And so John, basically panicking, handcuffs himself to Gwen, begging the Torchwood team to find a cure. But Gwen basically knows, it's like, right, we can't just let him live, or we can't let him destroy everybody else. And this DNA bomb will destroy a huge portion. So Gwen actually takes John to the place where he actually arrived from, which is where there's an opening in space and time, and hopefully Gwen will take John there, and the explosion will explode in there, revert in time, and will hopefully save everyone else in the process. But Owen and Jack basically mix up everyone's DNA and inject John with it, confusing the bomb coming off his chest, where then they throw the bomb, and the bomb actually reverts time to when John had just arrived. And that's basically the end of the narrative. It's like thing. And John basically pleads, Jack, can I join the Torchwood team? And Jack's like, no, you are worthless to me. I can't trust you. But before John leaves, he mentions that he found Grey, and he leaves in the time vortex, in the time thing. I don't actually, the time rift, wherever it's supposed to be. And the story ends with the Torchwood team basically asking Jack, "Who's Grey? What's that about?" Jack's just like, "Don't worry about it." Basically implying, basically it's setting up, this plot line with Grey, whoever this Grey character is. But it also establishes that even after this adventure, Jack still keeps secrets from his team. Even if, they have no idea who Grey is anyway, so why keep secrets from him? Jack still likes his secrets and still doesn't trust the Torchwood team, or at least the Torchwood team don't trust him. And, Jack likes keeping to himself, which, in a way, that's a great way of ending the story. I mean, this is the end of the narrative, so all the narrative stuff is done and you can set up that storyline. But the way it's done, it really does feel like, hey, you there, you audience, keep an eye on this Grey character, this Grey mention. This will be important in later stories. But I feel like if Chris Chibnall and Russell T Davies play their cards right, we could have an interesting storyline here between the Torchwood team and Jack and their distrusts of one another. So there you go, that's Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Overall, it was an okay story. I feel like I enjoyed it as I was watching it, but I don't feel like this will make anyone's top 10 anytime soon. It has some good moments, it has some great character beats, and the introduction of John Hart is a very important aspect to the Torchwood canonicity. But it just felt like a kind of okay story to me. It just felt like, that was okay. On to the next one. And so, it's an okay start to Series 2. It could have been better, it could have been worse. I just kind of shrugged. I was like, I had fun with it, but I didn't really have that much of an interest to it. The story does set up a lot of character elements and the character plot lines, which will hopefully get paid off in later episodes. So we'll see about that. But mostly the story does kind of feel like, I think that's the big issue with the story. We could have had a great self-contained story, but its eye is too busy keeping up. It's like, okay, we need to set up this, so we'll mention this in this episode. We need to set up Owen and Toshika, so we'll have a scene here where they kind of tease their relationship. We need to also tease Jack and Janto's. We also need to tease about this character and that moment and all this and all that. And so the story it does genuinely feel like a first episode of a story, of a series, and that was its entire focus. So really, my opinions on this at the moment are null and void. It really depends on how much Series 2 can conclude and pay off those story beats that were set up in this story. So there you go. That's Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. So join me next time where we go back to another Torchwood episode, which I haven't seen or heard of, so I actually can't give you a little tease of it. So join me next time for Sleeper, and I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra!